Wow, what a morning. Look at that behind me. We've got a cloud inversion that's just surrounding the entirety of the Isle of Man here, totally obscuring the Irish Sea, and it looks incredible. I've come up to the summit of the highest mountain, in fact the only mountain on the Isle of Man, Snaefell, and it's giving a commanding view out over the cloud inversion behind me here. We've got the rising sun directly behind me, and it's going to be rising in about 45 minutes. And I think it's going to deliver some fantastic potential here, but it's one of those situations in landscape photography that's a little bit overwhelming. I know I've got a finite window to get the most out of this opportunity, but as yet, I don't know what shots I'm going to go for. That inevitably ended up being rather rushed. I could just feel the pressure of that ticking clock running down to sunrise, and I knew that my time was running out. And I tend to find conditions like this, these incredible conditions, can be very paralysing. It's just, you're kind of overwhelmed with the opportunities around you, so much so that you can't decide in your head where you want to focus your attention. And I only settled on the shot behind me here, literally with seconds to spare, and the sun just burst above the horizon. So I very much cut it short, and it was incredibly rushed. So I've got no idea what the actual shots are going to be like, because I shot a panoramic sweep across the scene that you can see behind me here. And what I was focusing in for is the summit of North Brule, which is the second highest peak on the island. You can just see it behind me here, and it's got a nice chain of hills that run up to it, and they capture that beautiful golden hour light from the rising sun in that direction, and it works really superbly. The thing about a cloud inversion like this is it shrouds a lot of the defining features of the landscape, so there's not that many subject matters that can work as a focal point to anchor an image, but that summit back there definitely can. So I put on my 70-200 f4, and basically I took some panoramic sweeps in portrait orientation, left to right. I took some at 135mm and some at 200mm as well. Settings wise, probably about f5, f5.6, ISO 64 with shutter speed kind of going all over the place because I was bracketing due to high dynamic range. No filters or anything like that, quite a simplistic shooting arrangement, just having strong overlap between each frame in the panoramic, and I think it should work quite nicely. What I'm trying to capture here is those summits capturing that beautiful light, but then the cloud inversion either side of the summits that's covering the sea at the moment, and I want to capture a sense of vastness behind these peaks. And I don't know if you can see over to the sort of the right of your frame at the moment, the summits of the Lake District Mountains are actually bursting through that cloud inversion as well. So that should work very nicely for the backdrop of this shot. So yeah, overall, really nice start to the day, I think. What an unbelievable contrast. I descended the mountain where it was nice and warm. It was almost spring-like. It was just gorgeous up there, not a breath of wind. And I've descended down into the cloud inversion and it is dark, eerie, depressing, and I absolutely love those conditions for photography. You can see a solitary tree just behind me here. I'm trying to capture an image of that, and it's an actual tree that I've captured many shots of, but never in conditions quite like this. And the mist is very, very dense today, so much so that it's completely erasing the background of this shot entirely. So I'm effectively capturing that tree standing alone in the foreground with absolutely nothing behind it but grey, white, empty space. And I love it for sort of a minimalistic approach to landscape photography. Conditions like these are superb. I'm shooting with the 24-70 f4 on the Z7 here, shooting in at about 50mm, f8, ISO 64 at about 40th of a second. No filters or anything, just focusing in for the tree, and I'm positioning the tree over to the right hand side of the frame, kind of intersecting with the rule of thirds. And the reason for that is fairly straightforward. If you look at the top of the tree, there's a weird sort of anomaly of a branch that reaches out. It just looks completely out of place. It does give the tree a lot of character, but it does make the tree potentially a little bit more challenging to get right within a composition. So by positioning the tree over to the right hand side, that weird branch is reaching into that empty void that I've left on the left hand side, giving a nice sense of space, but also making the components kind of hang together quite nicely. Overall, I think it's quite a nice shot just on the way home. I'm hopefully going to head back out. I'm just going to go home and get a bit of food to make the most of these conditions, because honestly, they're just landscape photography dynamite. So after having a bit of lunch, I've headed back out and I've come to one of my sort of local woodlands that's one of my favourite locations, and it looks absolutely superb with this thick, dense shroud of mist that's just covering this forest at the moment. Looks absolutely incredible. But a bit of bad news. I literally just got here and unpacked my photography stuff, and I've realised that my main ball head on my tripod, which is the Benro G2 tripod head, is gone. It's detached off my tripod. So I've got no idea where the hell that has gone. I'm kind of hoping it's come loose in the car and that's where it is. But yeah, if it's not there, then it looks like it's gone. So it basically means I've got one tripod now, so I can't do any of the video footage with me and my camera at the same time. But first world problems and all that. I have taken quite a nice shot here though, I think. So you can see just behind me here, we've got a really nice collection of trees here, and I really like the interplay with all of the different tree trunks here and how they kind of go off into the distance, and gradually as they get further back they get softer and softer and softer in this dense covering of mist. So I've taken a 4:5 crop image at about 60mm, really focusing in on this area that you can see behind me here, and in the distance there's a fallen tree trunk, and I'm placing that sort of off on the left of the composition, and then most of these big bulking tree trunks here are off on the right side of the composition. And then just on the left of the shot also, you've got a nice dry stone wall here that's got a nice kind of covering of moss all over it, and I think overall it hangs together quite nicely as a shot. Settings wise, I'm shooting this at about f11, ISO 64, as I said, 60mm, shutter speed I think is about half a second, which I wouldn't usually recommend for forest photography, but there's not a breath of wind today, so there's no movement whatsoever. So the risk of using that half second is minimal. Oh my, look at that view behind me. I'm not joking. I don't know whether it's just the fact that I've run up this hill very, very fast because I'm in a rush and it's made me lightheaded. But that might be one of the best views, if not the best view I have ever seen on my time on the Isle of Man. My 35 years here. That is amazing. Oh my god, I basically just had to run up this hill because I'm so tight on time here. We've maybe got about 15 minutes to sunset here. So I'm really going to keep this quite brief because when I turn the camera off, my focus is on getting this shot because opportunities like this don't come round very often at all. I've come to the summit of a hill called Snaefell, which I had a sneaking feeling that this was the best place to come. All the other hilltops, the popular hilltops, are absolutely rammed with people just seeing this absolutely beautiful spectacle that you can see behind me. But Snaefell is not very popular at all because there's no particularly good paths up to the summit, but it's got this commanding view down the west of the island and it just looks incredible. I can't believe it. So I'm gonna turn you off, set up my camera and hopefully not mess this up. Oh my god, look at that. That sunset was absolutely spectacular. It really was. I honestly think it's one of the best I've ever seen here. Not so much for the colours in the sky because they're fairly bog standard. but it's for the way that the cloud inversion here is enveloping the island, and it's how it's interacting with this particular landscape behind me here. You can see the cloud inversion is snaking through the hills, and even the hills right off in the backdrop there, it's totally encircling them, so it's creating the illusion that they're sort of islands within a sea of cloud. It's otherworldly, and it's just absolutely spectacular. The sun set about 10 minutes ago, and I've just been admiring it, and honestly, I'm taken aback by it. I really didn't expect it to be like this. So for the photography, I basically shot it as a panoramic because there was so much going on in the scene from left to right. There's just too much to fit into one shot. So I'm gonna hopefully be able to stitch together 5 or 6 different images that I took across the scene to try and get the full majesty of what's actually going on here, and hopefully I've done it justice. I didn't manage to find my ball head earlier, and you know, I kind of, when I was down in the forest, I lost it, which is a little bit disappointing, but this makes up for it. So I shot the panorama on my shitty tripod, so hopefully that does the business, but it's not particularly the best tripod for panoramas, so I'm just literally keeping my fingers crossed that that's going to come off. But yeah, I kind of speechless. I don't honestly know what to say. I'm just taken aback by it. I genuinely am. It's been an absolutely incredible day. It's been very rushed because I've tried to fit in a lot, but days like this, they don't come round very often, but you just got to grab them with both hands when they do, because honestly, views like that, I will never, ever, ever forget that. Amazing.